I used to be the CMO of a B2B software company. And as a CMO of a B2B software company, I spent a lot of time basically doing technology, right? What are the marketing technologies we're going to bring into our jobs? What are the marketing ops we're going to do? How do we connect our CRM to marketing automation? And now, as CEO of a data and analytics company, I feel this tension, right? How much of our job truly should be technology as marketers? And how much of our job should be creative? How much should be art? How much should be poetry? And so, to talk about this, I really wanted to explore the concept of creativity, right? What does it really mean? How do we really think about it? And the dictionary definition is pretty straightforward. It's the ability to make new things or think of a new idea. But what new things? What new ideas? What ability? I want that ability. And so to really understand creativity and how we could apply it to marketing, I wanted to study a particular type of creative, the creative genius. See, there's some people, I'd argue Taylor Swift is one of them, there's some people who are just so darn creative. Some people who we look at them, we just go, how did they think of that? And there's all people we can think of, so I like to think about J.K. Rowling with the Harry Potter series, right? 7 books about witches and wizards is literally fantastic, right? She's definitely a creative genius, and she's become a billionaire as a result. But what's interesting is when you ask J.K. Rowling, how did you come up with the idea for Harry Potter? What she says is, I really don't know where the idea came from. It came into my mind when I was trained in London. Harry as a character came fully formed as the idea for his sidekicks. It was just this momentary flash, this sudden inspiration. Or another creative genius. So Paul McCartney is one of my favorite songwriters. He also has the most #1 singles of any songwriter of all time. And he actually wrote the song Yesterday by the Beatles. And what's interesting about the song Yesterday is the actual story of how it was created. He literally just woke up one day and the melody was fully formed in his head. He actually was so worried about this that he went around for weeks and just asked people, hey, he would hum it. Have you ever heard this melody before? He was worried he had plagiarized it, actually. And this is a true story. He only had the melody come to him in his sleep. He didn't have the lyrics. So he would go around and he used as placeholder lyrics. I'm not making this up. I'm going to sing this for you. Scrambled eggs. Oh, my baby, how I love your eggs. Diddle, diddle. I believe in scrambled eggs. Pretty good. Thank you. Thank you. I know. There'll be a whole nother session later about my singing. But what's amazing about all these creative geniuses is that there's a pattern, right? One moment, all of a sudden, one idea became suddenly clear. There was a flash of genius. See, they started with infinite possibilities. Paul McCartney could have thought of any chord progression. J.K. Rowling literally could have thought of any genre, any types of characters, any storylines. But in one sudden moment, one idea stood above the rest. One idea became clear. And I want to contrast this for a second with how we do creativity. So all of us in this room. So I want to talk about creativity in marketing for a second. And the setting is a little bit different. It's not a train in England. It's not Paul McCartney's bedroom, probably. Instead, it's here, the corporate conference room. You all know those chairs. You have those chairs. There's that teleconference thing we all have. And our canvas is also a little bit different, the whiteboard. And I actually want to reenact for you how most of us approach creativity in our jobs. And to do this, I have a few characters I'm going to use. So we have Tony, the content writer, and he's a little under-caffeinated. It's a Tuesday afternoon. He's sort of like, why am I here? And we have Hillary, the CMO. She thinks big. She says, we need big white paper ideas, really big. And then we have Will, the director of content. He's a middle manager. He's very agreeable. Whatever Hillary says, he's like, yes, let's do that. So he's like, yeah, Tony, what ideas do you have? He's delegating. And Tony sort of looks a little bit askew and is like, why did I take this job? I wanted to be a writer and a creative, and oh my God. And he goes up to the whiteboard. And you see this little motley cast of characters works at a financial services company. So there's lots of things they could do a white paper on. And he starts writing ideas. He's like, okay, what about 529 savings plans or taxes or bonds? And then suddenly he's like, oh, I got it. He has a light bulb moment. He says, let's do something 401ks. It's a big market for us. We sell a lot of them. We haven't done anything about them recently. Hillary's ecstatic. Great idea. Will looks to Hillary, sees that she's excited, and then says, yes, great. And Tony sort of, is like, okay, I'm going to go do this. And we all know what happens next. He spends 6 months writing it, editing it, getting a designer. Because it's financial services, he gets legal approval. And then, because for some reason it's still 1995, he has to send it to someone else to upload it to the website. And it's this whole big crazy thing. And he's like, why don't we just have WordPress? And so finally, they release the white paper. And then there's 6 months of actually promoting the white paper, of running SEM ads, social ads, Facebook ads, all these things to try and get people to download this white paper. And now 12 months have gone by. And one day, Tony's in his gray cubicle, and he gets an email from Hillary. We need to have a retrospective. He sort of gulps, and he's like, why am I here? And he goes again to the corporate conference room. And this time, Hillary is not happy. She says only 105 people downloaded our white paper. Will is basically crying. We spent $10,000 promoting it, my career. And Tony's just pissed. He's like, guys, we had this moment. We brainstormed. We had this flash of genius. Why didn't it work? Right? We did the thing that we're all told creativity looks like. We brainstormed. We collaborated. We innovated. We had a whiteboard even. We did all the things. And the issue is that it's not only Tony and Hillary and Will, it's actually all of us. In fact, when you look at any of the data, however you look at it, most content is failing. And so this is a pretty amazing chart. So this is from the Content Marketing Institute. So we're here. And this is a chart, and every year in their benchmark survey, they ask marketers, how effective is your content? And you would think CMI wants to say that content marketing is pretty effective, right? But the crazy thing is that 63% of B2C marketers and 61% of B2B marketers do not think their content is effective. If we were in any other profession, if the vast majority of us thought something wasn't working, would we keep doing it? No. But yet we keep doing it more and more and more. So I want to look at creative genius again, right? So how do creatives really do it? Is it really these light bulb moments? Is it really these flashes of genius? Because if so, we're all screwed. Because we weren't born with that. We don't just wake up with $1 million ideas. So this time I'm going to look at a different creative, my favorite creative, Taylor Swift. And Taylor Swift is perfect for a whole bunch of reasons. So, A, she drinks Coca-Cola, which is great. This is her in a Diet Coke ad. 2 is she's just somehow effortless, right? This is her in this Diet Coke ad, and she's literally writing the hit song 22 while she's backstage, and people are running around, and she's drinking Coke, and somehow the chords are just coming to her, and she's just writing out the lyrics to this song which sold millions and millions of copies. And her most recent album, which I've listened to a few hundred times, is this album 1989, which hopefully you bought. 8.6 million people did, so I'm not weird. Stop judging me. And the reason why it's so amazing is it actually had 3 #1 singles. Not 3 singles, 3 #1 singles. For those of you who don't know, aka the undereducated, we have Shake It Off, Blank Space, and Bad Blood. And if you haven't tried them yet, they're great. And, oh, by the way, she also had 2 other singles which charted, Style and Wildest Dreams. So, pretty darn impressive. But the thing is, when you actually take a closer look at Taylor Swift, and what I did is I looked at the liner notes of her CD, or if I'm being honest, because we're all friends here in this content marketing world, I looked on Wikipedia, you actually see a slightly different story. Shake It Off had 2 co-writers, Max Martin and Shellback. Blank Space had 2 co-writers, Max Martin and Shellback. Bad Blood had 2 co-writers, Max Martin and Shellback. Style had 2 co-writers, Max Martin and Shellback. And I think you get the point by this point. Wildest Dreams had 2 co-writers. So the question I had was like, who the heck is Max Martin and who named their child Shellback? Because that's like both really hip and terrible all at the same time. And so I went back to Wikipedia, and it turns out that Max Martin is one of the biggest Swedish hit doctors of all time. In fact, NPR called him the Scandinavian secret behind all your favorite songs. And Shellback looks exactly like you'd expect him to look like. And he works for Max Martin. He's sort of like an elf in his studio. And in fact, Max Martin has like a whole group of people who work for him as songwriters, producers, lyricists, and then there's all these people who he's taught in his way of songwriting, which actually, if you want to get into it, descended from another songwriter. It's like this whole thing. So there's like this Max Martin style of songwriting, which there's a whole mafia of people who do. It's crazy. And what's even crazier is I had one of my interns, because I thought it was an amusing project, I told him, okay, I want you to go and look at every single Billboard top song in 2014, 2015, and look and see if any of the songwriters are in the Max Martin like workshop of elves. And I had him go and do this, which was like, he was like, this is great. And I'm like, interns are great. And this is crazy. 40% of all #1 singles were written by someone in the Max Martin Mafia. 40%. One group of people. This isn't just a flash of genius. This isn't just people waking up with ideas. There's something more here. What is it? Scott Borchetta is the president and CEO of Big Machine Label Group. That's the record label that actually does all of Taylor Swift's CDs. And he's the one who actually introduced Taylor Swift to Max Martin. And what he said about the introduction I thought was so poetic. He says, I encourage our artists to dig deep and always do their best work. If one of them gets stuck creatively, we tear it down and rebuild it in their own image. Woo! That's good. This is a picture of Max Martin, Shellback, and Taylor Swift. Max Martin is literally in a Genius sweatshirt. And Shellback looks like Shellback. And Taylor Swift looks perfect. So I was just like, when I found this, I was just fascinated. Right? Because clearly there's more at play here. And so I started researching, I really dug into it, and I found this YouTube clip from Arthur Bourgeon. So he's a songwriter, he's part of the Max Martin Mafia. He was taught by him. He's written hit songs for Celine Dion, Janet Jackson, Santana, like pretty eclectic. And he was asked at a conference, much like this, what makes a hit song? And what I thought he said was just fascinating.
Not that it's all about pop, but to you, what makes a hit song?
Well, to me, I guess there are a few different ways to look at it. I mean, I worked with Max Martin for 5 years, and it was funny. He has his formula of going, never use more than 3 melodic parts in the song. If it's more than 3 melodic parts, the song is not good, which means you have to fix it with, so 3 parts.
So verse, chorus, bridge sort of thing.
Yeah, and recycle parts of the verse or part of the song in the chorus. So when the chorus comes, you already heard the chorus, but it's in the beginning of the verse. That's actually Dennis Pop's formula that Max Martin took, and we all went like, you need to minimize the information for the listener.
What I thought was amazing about that quote is you need to minimize the information for the listener, right? Just let that sink in for a second. And the thing is that the formula isn't just for melodies. It's actually for lyrics, too. So Bonnie McKee is a lyricist who worked for Max Martin, and she's written the lyrics to such literary greats as California Girls by Katy Perry, Dynamite by Tao Cruz. This is some serious war and peace stuff. And she was asked by a New Yorker, how do you think about lyrics? She was like, well, I actually used Max Martin's formula for lyrics. And she actually explained it. I thought it was amazing. She said, it's very mathematical. A line has to have a certain number of syllables, and the next line has to be its mirror image. If you think about any pop song, and you actually look at the lyrics, you'll find this is true again and again and again. The syllable counts are actually perfect mirror images of each other, line by line by line. So the things that we often perceive as creative brilliance are often the product of a system. Let that just sink in for a second. We see these grand stories about these authors, about these musicians, about these people, about Taylor Swift. But she literally has a team of people who have their own team. She has a team of teams. Right? So the things we perceive as brilliance are actually often the product of a system.